Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we're going to be going through the CEM Non-Verbal Reasoning Year 5 Block 6 lesson number 2. And today is going to be really a lesson on practice papers, exam technique. We're really moving on now in Block 6. I'm sure you mentioned if you saw the video earlier that the primary focus today is to get ourselves exam ready. And if you have a look, this is kind of our remit for the block, so it's going to concentrate on exam practice and strong understanding of the skills you'll need for the 11 plus. And so that's something we're really honing in on. To take part in today's lesson, you're going to need to be getting really good at sort of understanding how to use the multiple choice sheets. It's something that you may have done a little bit of in some of the assessments. You may not have done too much of. That's going to be a real big focus of not just the exams, but actually part of the blocks today. And we're going to go through that in just a moment as to how to do that. And again, we're going to be doing a range of topics. We're going to cover verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning, maths, as well as some of the English style questions as well. So a big range of topics to be covered today. These are the books that you should have been given, so just to show you, and this is the one with me that we're focusing on primarily today. So it's that practice paper book. And that's a bit of a sneak peek at the homework, which we can leave till later. So again, looking at the plans, we're going to be doing some numeracy, some problem solving, and a bit of non-verbal reasoning. They're sort of the three sections of the exam we're going to be looking at. And I will do a little bit of pre-teaching and pre-talking beforehand, but the main focus actually for today is just to get used to the format of how we do the lessons and actually how you get your books ready and prepared to go through, because it's not the easiest thing if it's the first time you've seen it. So first thing to look at really is how we're going to go about answering the question. So the first thing we will be doing is numeracy. Please don't start yet. I'm more interested actually that you just follow along with me and have a look. One, we need to talk about how we're going to answer the questions. And two, we need to work out together how you're going to go about doing it. So numeracy in the practice test books, 11 plus CEM Let's Practice book is the book we're using. So if you can all make sure that's gotten out. And you're going to be turning to pages, as you can write it out for us, 13 to 14. So we're only doing part of an assessment. We don't want to just have you sit down and do entire assessments. That'd be far too boring, but also it wouldn't be as helpful. So we're going to sort of narrow in, hone in on a few sections. And obviously the one we're doing to start with is numeracy. How you go about answering these questions is really important. Well, first, you need to do two things. One, find the page with the questions. And this is the first page here, page 13. And you'll see it's got some instructions. So it says the title, numeracy. It then tells you how long you'll have for the assessment. It gives you an example, and then it says stop and wait for instructions, and then you can begin the assessment. And this assessment will carry on to this page and several pages after. Now, paired with this comes a place to put the answers, and that place in this case is this piece of paper here. And to find this, you need to flip to the back of the section. It's not the back of the book, and this is where a bit of confusion will come. Each bit in the paper is split into sections. And I don't know if you can see, so we're in the getting started section. So you need to make sure in red here I've highlighted it that getting started 11 plus practice papers, and it says, this is test paper A, paper 1 of the getting started. You need to make sure it matches. So the first thing I want you to do is, and again, you need to sort of almost turn to the end of the assessment. You'll see there's lots of questions. You'll find the sheet that says test A, paper 1, but most importantly, getting started 11 plus. You'll notice there's also a test A, paper 1 of a different exam later. And so it's the important thing. You'll know you found the right answer sheet to pair. And you guys, you might have to pause the video here and it might take a bit of time of sorting. I certainly know in the live camp tomorrow, we've sort of set out a good minute and a half, I think, to get everyone organized, is that the page number will match with the title and also the number of questions will match. So you'll see here, you have, I can have done this well, you have 13 questions where you'll see this box here has got 13 question slots. The title is numeracy, and the page number matches the page number. If you can check for me those things to make sure you've got the same title of the test paper, so the get started test paper, page 13, numeracy, 13 questions. I would recommend every time you before you start potentially, spoiling an answer sheet, you check those four things to make sure you're in the right place. And if you've done that, I think we can both be pretty confident that you've found the correct material and you're in the right place. Now, how do we go about actually using it? Well, for this, I'm going to sort of zoom in a little actually, just on this sheet here, and sort of show you. Now, the first example, and when I actually play this, because we're going to treat this really like a real exam where we're not going to be me just reading out the questions, I'm going to have a voice come over and play over and we're going to listen to the instructions, it will tell you that the answer to the first question is 54. You can't just write that down. In order for the computer to be able to understand, you have to mark in the boxes in a way that indicates 54. And the way this happens is where the 5 is in the first column, the tens column, you would put a line through it, and that indicates 5, and that's what the computer realizes is 5. And then to make the 4 in the units column, you'd put a line through 4. And it's these dashes that go through the lines that the computer reads. So it's no good writing the word, it's no good underlining the answer on the test paper. It's really critical that you're really careful as to how you fill this in. So again, if I thought the practice question answer was 0, 0, I might put in 0, 0. If it was 99 or 95, I'd do a 9 and a 5. Important thing to note, currently, what I've done here is I've got 2 dashes in the same column. That is a big red X. That's called a multi-mark. You can only have one answer or one digit per column. Because if the computer sees this, it gets confused. It thinks you're trying to have both a 9 and a 0 in this case. So you need to have only one thing per column. It needs to be really carefully within the box. If your line goes outside of the box, let's say, for example, here, I thought the answer was 15. So I put a 1 and then 5. And I dashed it like this. Again, the computer's going to read this as a multi-mark. It might think that the 5's okay, but it's going to say, well, what's this sticking out here that's in the wrong column? So you need to be really careful and really precise with how we label our answers. So let's now go back and shrink that back down again. And again, there's another example here. I can make it larger. It's not the cleanest thing in the world. For example, here they've got 38, and they've put a line through the 3 and the 8, being really careful to mark it precisely. So when you're going through these, obviously, in the real deal, in the real classroom, I'll be looking over your shoulders to make sure you're being really precise, really careful. For here, you might want to get mum and dad in after you finish, just to say, mum, dad, is this nice? Is this legible? Have I put things carefully in the lines? If you want to, that you could sit them down for this part of the video and we can sort of go through it together. And actually, I think also, definitely I would recommend if you aren't sure about how to complete these, how to fill in these grids, come to one of the live lessons, even if it's just for the Q&A at the end, or ask questions on the Facebook chat, because it's really important we get this right from the beginning. So, hopefully by now I've spoken at length. You've all gotten the book out. You're on page 14, but you've also gotten this page out. So now there's 2 ways of doing this. Either you've got a bookmark and you're flipping back and forth. Probably a better way would actually be, and again, you might need to get mum and dad to help you with this, is to cut out or tear out this page so you can have the answers, the questions in front of you and the answers at the same time. But again, it's entirely up to you and what you think is best. If you are going to not tear it out, I would strongly suggest getting a piece of paper, a bookmark, something, so that you can very rapidly flick between questions and answers. Because the last thing you want to do is to know an answer, then be trapped looking for pages. I think that'd be a horrendous waste of time. And again, we are under time conditions today. Big part of getting exam ready is to practice under time conditions. So for this, I will have a timer on the screen, although that's not too much good because I'm actually going to flip through the pages and you can see I'll sort of go through the pages that are coming up. But actually, there's going to be a voice that plays and tells you when to begin. And so although I will have the timer on the screen, really what I want you to do is first and foremost is actually to listen to the voice. Remember, as certain strategies that you can undertake as we go through this, it would be okay, as far as I'm concerned, for you perhaps to do working out on this piece of paper. Working out's absolutely fine, but just remember, it's no good saying whatever you think the answer is. So let's say I thought the answer was 5. It's no good writing it on my test paper. The only marks that count are those that are written on the answer sheet at the end. So that's really important. Also, they are going to go through the examples, so just make sure, as soon as I start the timer in a moment, that you're there to go with them. Right, everyone. So it's a 6-minute test, but I will start the voice track before I start the timer. So you'll hear some instructions. I need you to listen to them. Again, you have the advantage of being able to pause the video in the real time. That won't be the case, but I'll make sure as I do that I start the 6-minute timer as soon as the lady says you may begin. So you can reference back to this video and you'll be able to see the timer here. I nearly pointed with my finger. So you actually are able to keep track of that 6 minutes slightly better. Remember, if there's 6 minutes and 13 questions, that means you've got slightly less than 30 seconds per question. So you need to be really on top of that. And if you do find yourself struggling with a question, my advice is always move on and come back to it. Right, everybody. Hopefully you're ready. If you're not, pause the video and get ready because we're about to begin. Listen in, and what I will have happen, guys, is actually my face will disappear from here. We'll see how that goes. Right, everyone, good luck.
Numeracy. You have 6 minutes to complete the following section. You have 13 questions to complete within the time given. Listen to these examples. The questions within this section are not multiple choice. Write the answer to each question on the answer sheet by selecting the correct digits from the columns provided. Example 1. Calculate the answer to the following. 12 plus 42. The correct answer is 54. This has already been marked in Example 1 in the numeracy section of your answer sheet. Practice question 1. Calculate the answer to the following. 55 minus 47. The correct answer is 8. Please mark this in Practice Question 1 in the numeracy section of your answer sheet. Note that a single-digit answer should be marked with a 0 in the left-hand column, so mark 08 on your answer sheet. You may now begin this section.
So good luck everyone. Time has now started. In the real exam, of course, it will be absolute silence, so I'm going to mirror that. But just to say, do check please that my answers and yours mirror each other exactly. I think that's really important, that my answers and yours mirror each other exactly. Good luck. I'll see you all in 5 minutes. For the purpose of this video, I will let it play out so you get the exact timings. But of course, remember, if you want to skip ahead and you finished early, just look for this timer here.
You have 5 minutes remaining. You have 2 minutes remaining. You have 1 minute remaining. This is the end of the section.
Right, so guys, that's time up. Let me bring back my little face camera so you can see that I'm still here. That was a full 6 minutes, and guys, that really is not going to feel much more like an assessment than that in terms of how it's laid out, how you've got to work between two things. We're about to go through the assessment, but before we do, just some notes that are really important. Now, notice how at the end of the section, you'll see at the bottom it says, stop and wait for further instructions, continue working. It's really important that you're obeying those really precisely. So, for example, if you were to be caught using your example time to try and answer questions, well, you'd actually get in a lot of trouble that way. And so it's not something that's worth practicing because you'd never do it in the real exam. It certainly wouldn't be worth the risk. But hopefully that gives you a real feel. Now, probably for the remaining sections of the video today, I won't let the whole video take up 6 minutes, otherwise it turns into a very long YouTube video. But hopefully you can set your own timers, and I'll talk you through that in a minute, and treat it in a similar fashion. But that really should have given you a sort of a real feel for what the real exam will be like, and hopefully it wasn't too bad. Now, we'll go through the maths together, but again, more important to me right now, is actually then hopefully you'll find, because it's just part of the getting started section, the maths wasn't too difficult. I mean, certainly I know some of the first questions, addition, subtraction, quite nice. What I'm more focused on is that this was done properly and correctly. So since you are at home, if you are possible, I would suggest, as we go through these answers, making sure really carefully you've worked out the answers properly. And I'm not only going to show you the correct answer mathematically, what I'll do at the end is I'll go through and show you the correct answers as they would appear on the sheet. And really, that's the primary thing. Not just the primary thing that I'm focusing on today. Not just have you got the maths correct, but have you marked it on the answer sheet properly. And it might be something that you want to get an adult in to come and check over your shoulder and just say, yep, following these rules, this is what we've done. So obviously, we answered these practice questions. You don't get any marks to practice questions, so it's not something I'm going to worry about marking, but we saw the first answer was 54. The second one was 8, which we had to mark as 0, 8. Think of it as because tens column in units. There were 0, 10s, and 8 units. Let's have a look then at the questions. So you can see here, we had one question on page 13 left over, and the answer to that is 73. We had then on page 14 the remaining answers. And again, notice how if it says continue working, you just turn over, no problem. It's only when it says stop, cease, halt, don't go on, that you would stop without further instruction. So hopefully none of you just did one question. You need to turn over and access the rest. So we've got then 120 divided by 2, that's 60. Easiest way of doing that in our heads is to do 12 halved, which is 6, add the naught. Calculate the answer to the following. Remember, although we do have to respect bid mass, addition and subtraction are an equal priority. So we just do it in the order we appear. So 54 minus 7, then plus 9, and that gives us 56. Yep. Calculate the mode. The mode is the most frequent, really important. We learn our definitions. So what is the most frequent number? So going through, I can already spot 1, 2, 3 5s. So the modal number, the most frequent number is, I think, 5. Let's just check there's nothing else that shows up more often. Nope. So 5 is the modal number. Which number should replace the question mark in the following sequence? Again, I'm trying to spot the pattern. We've got 14 to 21. Well, first of all, it looks like a difference to me of 7, then 21 to 28. That's going to be another difference of 8. Then we've got a difference of 7. So another difference of 8, perhaps. It's alternating between the two. Plus 7 plus 8, yeah. So then I would need to do 36 plus 8, which is 44. Number 5. Going so far so good. How many minutes are there in 1 and a 6th hours? Well, 1 hour is 60 minutes. A sixth of an hour is 60 divided by 6. So that's going to be 10 combined together to make 70 minutes. What is the value of x in this equation? So this is one where I'm going to do some simplifying. First off, I want to do 31 minus 12. I can do 30 take away 10, which is 21, and then 21 take away 2, which is 19. So now I've got 15 plus x equals 19. So currently I've just worked out the right-hand side and I've left the left the same. And then you bring this up here, so I've got a bit more space to do the next row. Ooh. And if I've got 15 plus something equals 19, you can probably tell me straight away that something is 4. But how did we get there? If we want to see the full working, you might have done, okay, well, x will be the same as 19 take away 15, which gets us to 4. So final answer for 7, x equals 4. Take a moment there, pause if you need to, go back if you need to. Question 8. What is the remainder when 75 divided by 8? A few ways of doing this. I think maybe I might set out as a bus stop. So 8 into 7 goes 0 times. 8 into 72 go in 9 times with 3 left over. So it would be 9 remainder 3. So in this case, the answer is 3 because the remainder is what they're after. And remember, in our questions, although I'll show you this in a second, we would write that as 0, 3. But we'll see more in a second. How many months are there in half a decade? Well, there's 12 months in a year. And in half a decade, that's 5 years. So it's going to be 12 times 5, which is 60 months. Notice, guys, that all these answers are going to because there are only 2 columns in the answers, they're going to be between sort of 0 and 99. You can't have an answer of 102 because you don't have the columns for it. You need to have 3 columns of potential answer spots. And since we don't have that, you can sort of eliminate any erroneous answers that are too large. Which of these is not a multiple of 8? A multiple essentially means in the 8 times table. And I can already see that 65, it jumps out to me. I know my 8 times table and 65 is not in it, so my answer is 65. Number 11, how many different factors? Factors often come in pairs, and they're numbers that multiply together. So how many different factors does 36 have? Well, factor pair 1 and 36. We've got 1, so 1 times 36 is 36. We've got 2 times 18 is 36. We've got 3 times 12 is 36. We have 4 times 9 is 36. And what I'm creating here is a factor bug where I sort of start at the top and work my way around. 5 doesn't go, but 6 does. And it's 6 times 6. But notice how I only write it once because it wants how many different. Another way of saying that might be how many unique factors. And since 6 times 6, but 6 is the same number, we only write 6 once. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9 different factors. I think of a number, something, multiply it by 2, then divide it by 3, and end up at 8. So let's go in reverse to find out where we came from. So if I go in this direction, it's going to be 8 times by 3, which is 24, and then divided by 2, which is 12. So my final answer is 12. And finally, what is the mean of these numbers? Remember, mean is the meanest one to work out. You have to add the numbers up and then divide by how many there are. So the first thing we'll do is going to work out a total. And that total, easiest way of doing it, I think, is to say 2 plus 8 is 10. So I've now got 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, which is going to be 40 plus 4. So that's 44 is my total. And then 44 divided by how many there are, in this case 4. 44 divided by 4 is 11, which means the mean, which is another way of saying the average, is 11. So those are our answers. Let's just go back through and quickly now fill in the sheet. I've got my version here. Let's make it as large as I can. Good, hope that fits on the screen okay. So again, if I was going through, we saw the practice question was 0 and 8. If I go back and I just quickly copy down these answers, I can see we had 73, so 7 and 3. We had 60, which is 6 and 0. We had 56. Sorry, I wish I had you lovely lot in the chat because you could call out to me. 56. We then had 5, so remembering that's 0, 5. If I do it the other way around, that means 50 because it'd be 5, 0, 50. 44, that's nice and easy. Again, being very careful. I don't like that one. It looks like it might be just crossing over, but just about got away with it. We had 44, and we got 60 minutes, so 6 and 0. Oh, no, sorry, question 6 is 70. Well, here's an advantage of my little screen. I can drag that one down a bit, put it in the right place. So 7 and 0. Then question 7, we've got the answer is 4. So remembering 0, 4. Question 8, we've got the remainder is 3, so 0, 3. Question 9 was 60. Question 10, 65. Question 11 is 9. And question 10 was 6. Oh, question 11, sorry, no, question 12 was 12. It's always nice when that happens. And 13 was 11. There. So again, I've been really careful to keep everything within the border. No double marks, never two things in the same column, but always both column answered. It would be incorrect, and this is worth going over, it would be incorrect if I didn't have the 0 there. So you have to mark the 0 and the 8. So it always has to be an answer in every column. Just sometimes that answer can be 0. So again, pick this as an example. That is 0, 8. And you have to mark both the 0 and the 8. You have to have one in both columns. Really, really, really important. So check that again, get an adult to go through it if you need to. I won't do this for every question because, of course, it's a little redundant for me to be showing the answers twice, but I think it's just important that you be able to get the opportunity to see it in action in practice. And again, if anything isn't making sense, please do come to one of our Q&As and ask questions, or come to one of the live sessions and ask them there as well. Things just worth highlighting, look at the keywords that came up. We had decade, factor, mean, mode, and multiplies. So if we just quickly run through, we had a decade was 10 years as keyword. Factors, they're numbers that multiply together to make a number. The mean is the average, and the average is the total divided by the number of participants, number of digits, I think I'll say. The number of numbers. Let's be even clearer. Total of the numbers divided by the number of numbers, or I've seen that written as how many there are. The mode, nice and easy, is the most frequent. And multiplies means times, or oh, no, multiplies. Multiples, silly me. Multiples, very easy. very similar to being multiples, is your times table. So for example, if something is a multiple of 4, it's in the 4 times table. Means, is it in the times table? That's a question you can ask. Okay, so that's if you needed those as well. We're going to press on, that's homework a bit early, to try some problem solving. Now guys, forget this, so we're going to do it very similarly. I will let you listen to the introduction where the lady talks through the questions. Actually, I do need to find it on my thing as well. So problem solving, I think, was it? Yeah, it was at 3:15. So I can just keep that going. But for this, I will actually ask you to pause the video and have a timer prepared. So perhaps that's what you want to do now. Get a timer out. It needs to be an 8-minute timer that you get out and get ready, because I'm not going to make the video 8 minutes longer, because I know you guys are very capable of timing yourselves at home because you've been doing it beautifully. Again, for this problem solving, again, essentially the longer, more worded questions, they're still going to be often mathematical in nature. So remember your skills. So I can see here practice questions, that's going to be fractions and things, and here dealing with money. Just make sure, please, you're answering the correct place. And again, what are the 4 things we need to check? First off, does problem solving match with the title? Good. Are we doing the Get Started exam? Are we answering on the Get Started answer sheet? Good. Does the page number match? Page 15 to 17. Pages 15 to 17, yes. And finally, there are 10 questions and 10 spaces to do the answers. For this one, slightly different to the others before, it's not a column, you just simply have to put a line through your answer. So you can see here in the first example, she'll talk you through it, but it says the answer is C, and there's a line through C. And that's why I want you to do that for me, please. And again, do take part, and although you don't get a mark for the practice question for us today, definitely worth doing. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, the primary thing today, guys, is not that hopefully you'll find these questions too challenging. It's more getting used to working to time, but using this relatively new answer sheet. So we'll see how we go. And again, if you need a bit more time to get yourself sorted, by all means pause the video. But I'm about to play it now. And actually, let me just quickly grab, where can I grab a timer from? Let me steal a timer from here. I know we're actually not going to play it, but I can just have it there to show you that you need to get yourself a timer for 8 minutes. I don't want this video to be 8 minutes longer. Right, again, just to be clear, I'm going to play the video. I do want you to listen to the intro audio, but as soon as the lady says you may begin, that's when I would expect you to actually pause the video and then give yourself 8 minutes that you've timed, and then come back to me when you're ready for the answers. Right, everybody, really good luck. Let's have a listen.
Problem solving. You have 8 minutes to complete the following section. You have 10 questions to complete within the time given. Listen to these examples. Example 1. Calculate the answer to the following. Tom buys a chocolate bar for £1.50. He pays with a £5 note. How much change does he receive? A. £1.50. B. £3. C. £3.50. D. £4. E. £5. The correct answer is C. This has already been marked in example 1 in the problem-solving section of your answer sheet. Practice question 1. Sarah eats 1/4 of a pizza. What fraction of the pizza remains? A. 1/2. B. 1/3. C. 2/5. D. 3/4. E. 5/6. The correct answer is D. Please mark this in practice question 1 in the problem-solving section of your answer sheet. You may now begin this section.
So I'm going to pause it there. Remember, guys, you may now begin, but be very careful with putting your answers in the sheet. Again, I do recommend put working out in your book. And of course, one thing I didn't mention but I wanted to, which is why I've just paused it, it is okay if you want to go through and do the answers and then fill them in towards the end. But if you're going to do that, you'd be really careful that you're not running yourself out of time, because the last thing you want to do is have answered questions on the answer sheet, on the question paper, sorry, but not transfer them to the answer sheet. And I do know some people do that, so I just wanted to mention, if you are doing that, it's just to be really, really diligent with the time and you really keep an eye on the clock. Right, everyone, 8 minutes, good luck. Please pause the video here and come back in 8 minutes time, hopefully with a smashing result. Good luck. So there's 8 minutes that's whizzed by. By now you should be finished again. If not, do pause the video. So I'm about to go through the answers. Again, we've seen the 2 practice questions that we've covered. And these are from page 16 and 17. Hopefully you all saw that okay. It's just the next section. Let's run through the answers now. So, calculate answers to the following. Peter leaves home at 10 a.m. and returns home at 12 p.m. How many minutes is away from home? Well, that's going to be 2 hours and a half. And 2 hours and a half is going to be 150 minutes. So that's E. First answer. A man drives a truck at an average speed of 48 kilometers per hour. What distance does he cover for 3 hours? So he's doing 48 per 1 hour, but he's doing 3 times that amount. So my sum is going to be 48 times 3. And 48 times 3, I would maybe perhaps do 40 times 3, which is 120, and then 8 times 3, add them together, get an answer of 144 kilometers. Number 3, Sandra collects coins. In June, she collects 45. In July, she gets 66. In August, she gets 34. How many did she do in total? So total is an addition, so we need to add them together. Just spotting that 6 and 4 will make 10, so I think it's easier to do 66 and 34 added together to make 100, and plus 45 gets you to 145. Final answer, so B. Question 4. There are 44 sweets in a box. Ravi eats a quarter of them. How many are left in the box? So it's going to be a quarter of 44. Easiest way to do quarters, which is the same as dividing by 4, is to halve it and halve it again. So that's 22 halved, which is 11. So remember that, to a quarter of something, it means the same thing as dividing by 4, and that is the same as dividing by 2 twice. For your mental math skills, that's a really good little trick to know. They're the same thing. Simon buys 2 packets of crisps. Each packet costs 22p. He pays with £1 coin. So in total, he spent 22 plus 22, which is 44, but don't be trapped. It doesn't mean that's not the answer. It's saying how much change did Simon retrieve. So we now need to do £1, take away 0.44. A couple ways of doing it. You could just do it as it is a decimal, or do 100 pennies, take away 44, so 100 take away 44, and that will get you down to an answer, which is D of 56. Question C. Shape A is a regular hexagon with a perimeter of 54 centimeters. What is the length of one side of shape A? So perimeter means the outside, and regular means all the sides the same length. So very simply, I can just do 54, and I can just divide it by the number of sides. In this case, I know a hexagon is 6, and they give me a picture so I could have counted them if I wasn't sure. And this will go in 6 into 5, 0, 6 into 54 go in 9 times. So each side must then be 9 centimeters long. Question 7. Again, this was on a different page, but you'll notice at the bottom it didn't say stop. It didn't say end of test or end of section, so you're able to keep going. This one, question 7. Bowl of sweets is shared between Tim and Robert using the ratio 3 to 2. So that means T comes first and R comes second, because the order in the question, in the sentence, matches the order of the ratio. That's important to remember. Stop my phone from buzzing. If Robert receives 12 sweets, how many does Tim receive? So Robert is the, so let's do this. So 3 to 2. Oh, slip. 3 to 2. And we're saying that Robert, the second column, is actually worth 12. So to keep the ratio the same, a couple of ways of thinking about this. I could say, how did I go from 2 to 12? Probably the easiest. Well, it was 6 times larger. So if I ask myself, okay, what's 6 times larger than 3? It's going to be 3 times 6, which is 18. And these are in the same ratio. And the reason they're the same ratio is because we've increased them both by the same amount, which means I can now find out what Tim is, which is 18. Next question, number 8. How many lines of symmetry does the shape have? Lines of symmetry are, if you were to fold it over, it would match identically, and it has one line of symmetry along that line that I've drawn in. So that purple is the line of symmetry, and you can see there's only one of them. Nowhere else I could draw it, where if I folded it, it would perfectly match. So that makes the answer number 8B. 950 people attended a concert, rounded to the nearest 10. What's the largest possible number that it could have been? Okay, well, I've got to think to myself about the rounding rules. So 560. What numbers could I have rounded and still ended up at 560? Oh, I've written 566. Let's make that 0 look more like a 0. 560. Well, if I was rounding up, I could have had 555. That would have rounded up. Anything lower, though, 554. 554, you'd have seen that wouldn't round up. And again, for the largest possible number, then I need to think about what's the biggest number. In the same way that 554 wouldn't be rounded up to 60, I want to have 564, because that's the biggest number that will still get rounded down and end up at 60. If I was to have 565, suddenly this 5 now would round it up, and it would suddenly become 570. So the biggest number I can have is 564, because that's the largest number that will actually still round down to get to 560. E, 564. Great question, that. Really tests your understanding of rounding. So if you didn't get that one, come to Q&A or have a bit more practice at rounding questions. Go over the method again, see if it becomes clear. The price of a desk is reduced by 20% in a sale. The original price was £40. What's the sale price? Well, it's saying that it's taking away 20%. So I'm going to want to work out what 20% is so I can take it away. Easiest way to do that is to say that 10% will equal 40 divided by 10, which is 4. So that means then 20% is going to be twice as much. Twice as much as 4 is 8. So if we started at 40 and we've lost 20%, means we've taken away 8%. That's going to be 40 take away 8, which is 32. D is my final answer, 32. Right, that's that. And guys, we're going to move on to the last activity now, which is non-verbal reasoning. I need to move my little tape recorder video on a little bit to the correct timestamp. Hopefully that's about right. And again, guys, for this, very similar, please make sure that you found the correct page. So for this one, again, it needs to match, your answer sheet needs to match this page. And you'll notice this now is not in consecutive order. It needs to say non-verbal reasoning as part of the get started sheet, the get started test booklet. Let's just see actually if I can find it. I don't know if I've got a copy of this one to show you. But take a moment now just to get it out and ready. Oh, actually I do, because it was the same one as the problem solving one. It's there. So this one here, see, it's non-verbal reasoning. I'll copy this over and put it next door. So same book, and this is the sheet we're answering on in this section, non-verbal reasoning. And again, I'm just being really diligent about checking my page numbers, that they match, the number of questions match. I'm expecting 13, I've got 13, and the titles come through. So there's quite a few examples of this one, so I'd like to get started straight away. So if you need a bit more time, don't hesitate to pause the video here. Clear out those squiggles. Oop, not that squiggle. And again, guys, I'll come along with you, and as she reads out the answers, I might draw on mine just to show you how I'm expecting it to look. But again, for this one, it's going to be 7 minutes, so it might be worth getting that 7-minute timer ready now, so that when I then say you can begin, I'm not going to talk for that one. As soon as she says begin, I'll simply expect you guys to hit pause in the video and come back in 7 minutes with it done. 7-minute timers, remember it's page 26 and 27. Right, everyone, really good luck. Let's have a listen.
Non-verbal reasoning. You have 7 minutes to complete the following section. You have 13 questions to complete within the time given. Listen to these examples and look at the images on the page. Complete the square. Example 1. Which figure on the right should replace the blank square in the pattern. The correct answer is D. This has already been marked in example 1 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Complete the square. Practice question 1. Which figure on the right should replace the blank square in the pattern? The correct answer is A. Please mark this in practice question 1 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Reflection. Example 2. Select how the following shape or pattern would appear when reflected in the dashed line. The correct answer is C. This has already been marked in example 2 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Reflection. Practice question 2. Select how the following shape or pattern would appear when reflected in the dashed line. The correct answer is C. Please mark this in practice question 2 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Dimension. Example 3. Select how the following 3D figure would appear in a top-down plan view. The correct answer is C. This has already been marked in example 3 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Dimension. Practice question 3. Select how the following 3D figure would appear in a top-down plan view. The correct answer is B. Please mark this in practice question 3 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet.
Just to say, guys, notice how I've done my working out on the sheet. Just as a reminder, you absolutely can use the questions to draw on them still as much as you want. This can be drawn on, but this must be pristine. I said I wouldn't talk, so here we go. Good luck, everyone. See you all in 7 minutes.
You may now begin this section.
Right, guys, pause the video. See you all in 7. Whew, that was a quick 7 minutes. Right, everyone, so now I'm going to run through the answers. I'm going to explain the first couple, and we'll, of course, then go through and make sure the answers are done nicely and clearly. So let's start with the first few. Pick a nice blue colour. So, question 1, the answer is C. Obviously, on the top we have squares, on the bottom we have circles, on the left we have white, on the right we have black. So to combine those two things, we needed a black circle. Question 2, what you notice is, again, it looks like it's being reflected down the middle. So I was expecting an arrow going up and an arrow going to the right. So for question 2, the one that matches that is answer A. There's no reason it should change or rotate any other way. Question 3, the answer is C. Why? Because as we go from left to right, the number of sides is increasing. But other than that, it's the same shape. So A and B immediately eliminated. And again, I can think of no reason why D or E match either. Again, guys, although I realise some of these questions are a little easier, what you'll notice next week is the difficulty is going to jump up. Again, the primary teaching goal, the learning objective of this lesson is for you guys to learn how to fill out these sheets really carefully. So I'm much more concerned with you getting perfect scores, marked perfectly, than how easy or how not easy you found the assessment. That's something, of course, for you to judge. Although I hope you find every assessment easy. Just make sure, guys, you're again being really careful how you answer them. As again, do get them with that just to look over them. I think it's really valuable. Right, what's going on question 4? I think the answer to number 4 is going to be, oh, I would have said C, because we've got top 2 here, top 2 here. So I mean, these two diagonals with the rounded corners. But then what I notice is the shading is going diagonal one direction to the diagonal in the other. So I want diagonal shading like this, which matches to C. But where the dots are, that's the edges that are curved, and you notice that pattern. Right, next we just run through them. So select how the shape would appear when reflected across the dotted lines. The answer to the number 5 is C. So you'd end up having this little earmarked corner on the inside, which is what happens. Question 6, the answer is A. So it looks exactly the same because nothing that would change. Question 7, the answer is B. Again, look at the features that they're being mirrored. Reflection and mirroring, essentially the same, synonymous with each other. Question 8, the answer is D. Again, there's opposite patterns. That's what we're getting, this opposite pattern appearing. Question 9, the answer is A. This is that top-down view. And again, you notice how I always like to sort of draw identifying lines and match them with my picture. So that's why it's A for me. Last page, question 10, the answer is D. Again, there's identifying features. And I'm sort of drawing over the faces, the top faces that appear. So again, you just see what would appear like 3 lines and 3 lines. So the answer is B. This one, dot, dot, and a 2, dot, dot, and a 2. That makes A. Sorry, 11 was B, 12 was A. I should say them just in case people aren't watching the video, they're listening in. And then for number 13, we had a single dot, 3 in a row. So that makes C the answer. Right, guys, and that really is the end of the lesson. You've been absolutely fantastic. Again, really important you go away, you feel really comfortable with these. So if you're not, please, please, please make sure that you're coming back, you're talking to us at the Q&A. Look, this is what will happen, because when I go through these slides in the lesson, I'll say Q&A will now begin in 1 minute. So always remember, at the end of our sessions, every session throughout the week, there'll always be an opportunity for you to ask some questions. And remember, as a tutor, we're happy to stay for as long as you guys have questions. There's very rarely a need for us to get off while people are still asking questions. In terms of the homework, this is important to see, so I will show this up. Obviously, you guys can't answer questions to me now because it's recording, but you can look at the homework. And again, there's 2 you musts. If for whatever reason you're watching this video and you haven't received any books or materials, please know that they were all posted first class last week, so we fully expect them to be winging their way to you. And really would expect them all to be with you already. But if they're not, don't worry, I'm sure they're on the way. But if they don't come through, you'll be given an email with the supporting documents, scans of this homework, but also get in contact. We can always, worst case scenario, if they really were lost in the post and weren't turning up, we would, I'm sure, arrange for another one to get to you somehow. Right, everyone, thank you so much for your time. All the best. See you again. Bye-bye.